I'm Janelle Leatherwood with a stuffed grape leaf, and I wanted you to join me today as I'm getting ready for Easter. And we're going to be doing a lot of fun cooking today. This is my first Facebook Live, so I'm going to stay by my computer for a minute and just optimize a couple of things. Okay, I think everything is working. The only thing I noticed is I've got a lot of lights that are a little bit shiny on the image, but I'm not sure how to get around that. So you can send me tips if you're better at this. But today I'm going to show you how to make what is called Armenian Kahke, and also we're going to finish making Armenian bread. And I'm going to pretty much be standing back here, and I realize that things are going to be a little bit small. And so if you can't see things, maybe leave me a comment about how it's working out for you, and I'm going to try to address any issues that we're having. So just bear with me. Okay, so let me show you what we're making today. The first recipe is called Armenian Kahke, and you traditionally eat this with string cheese. So here's some that I've already made. I've actually got two different versions. Some were rolled into knots, and others were rolled into circles like this. So I've got a full tray of each of those in here. I know it's a little bit hard to see. I'll just show you the top, otherwise I'm afraid I'm going to spill the bottom layer. But I will show you how to make those today. Like I said, they're kind of like, it's kind of like a biscuit. Some people eat them for breakfast, and some people eat them just as a snack. We like to eat them as an hors d'oeuvre with Armenian string cheese on top. So let me go ahead and get started with the ingredients that we're going to need for this. I've got my mixer here. This is the mixer that I got when we first got married, and I'm probably ready for an upgrade at some point, but it still serves me well enough. So this is the recipe that I'll be using. It was my grandma's handwriting, I guess, and you know, she doesn't give very specific instructions, which makes it a little bit hard for me to figure out how she made things. For example, it says 2 yeast, and she didn't say whether that was teaspoons, tablespoons, packets, or the old yeast cakes, but I think she meant 2 yeast packets, and that's what we're using today. Is you can get like the Fleshman's or Red Star active dry yeast is what we use today. And so anyways, and I also tend to cut her recipes in half because she would make a really big batch of everything. So what we're going to use today is 2.5 cups of flour. So I'm going to add that to my bowl here. And then 1/2 cup of farina. Now you can buy farina at a Middle Eastern market without all the extra stuff that comes in cream of wheat, but you could use cream of wheat in a pinch. And if you want to be really picky, you could process it in a blender to be a little bit finer. Okay, so you've got that, and then you're going to need 1 1/2 tablespoon of sugar. I forgot my sugar, so let me go ahead and put that in. So we've got 1/2 tablespoon of sugar. Okay, and then you're going to use 2.5 cubes of butter. And let's see, you're going to have 1/4 cup of milk, and a teaspoon of salt. And then you're going to also add a couple of ingredients that are specific to Middle Eastern cooking and Armenian cooking. You're going to put in, let me get my instructions here, a half a table or 2 teaspoons each of malab, which is this spice here. And then, sorry, I'm moving up the wrong packet of seeds. And then about 2 teaspoons of this, which is called Nigella black seed. And you'll also need some sesame seeds when you're finished making the dough. So we're going to have that. Anyways, you're going to combine all of those. And then for your yeast, you've got, let me stir this up a little bit. I like to let my yeast proof a little bit. And actually, I made a mistake. It's best to put your sugar in with your yeast because it just feeds it and gets it to proof and foam up a little bit better. So I just try to sprinkle a little bit of that sugar that I haven't mixed in yet into here. So when that's all ready, you'll add that in with all of your other ingredients. So I think I covered it all. Flour, farina, sugar, butter, which I haven't added yet, the yeast, which you dissolve in 1/4 cup of warm water, and then the 2 teaspoons each of the malab, the black seeds, the 1/4 cup of milk, and a teaspoon of salt. So let me go ahead and get the rest of those ingredients. Except I just realized that I don't have the butter with me, so that's going to take me a minute. Okay, so let's see. So I'm going to add 1/4 cup of milk. And this is just about ready to add in. I think I'll add the seeds and the malab after I've stirred it up a little bit. So if you'll just give me a moment, I'm going to have to run into my basement and grab some butter, and I'll be right back. One moment. Okay, sorry for the little break. I'm just going to catch everybody else up who may just be joining. So we are making 2 things today, Armenian Kahke and Armenian Pita Bread. So let me go ahead and melt this butter. Like I said, you use 2½ cubes. And I'll explain why I've got this sheet over my counter here in a minute. But I've got a little microwave drawer down below that I'm going to melt the butter in. I got scared for a minute because I didn't realize that I didn't have the butter habit of grabbing a box of butter just about every time I go to the grocery store because a lot of the Armenian cooking requires it. And it's kind of funny because my grandma and these aren't just her recipes, but her mother's as well, and her sister, Aunt Izzy. So they all did this cookie, this Armenian cookie, but they used a lot of butter. That's why everything tastes good. I was joking to my husband last night. Why is it that my grandma's recipes all call for about twice as much butter as the other recipes that I see? But it's definitely good. And we tasted the Kahke last night, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. So it's necessary. But anyways, we're just gonna get that butter melted, and I'm just gonna make sure that I get all the other ingredients. I think I'll measure out the seeds so I don't forget those. So we're going to do 2 teaspoons of black seeds. And if you're wondering what the malab is, I believe it's like a ground cherry seed. Maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But, and speaking of cherries, yesterday my husband and I went to this Middle Eastern market in Utah that has everything that you need. In fact, it was the only place that we found that carried the string cheese that we like, which also has the black nigella seeds in them. So that was exciting to find that. Okay, so we're just getting the butter melted, and I'm not going to have it boiling hot because I don't want it to kill the yeast that I'm going to add to it. In fact, let me just start mixing that a little bit right now. And I was noticing that you don't actually even necessarily need a kneading hook for this recipe. I mean, it's probably best, but you could probably use a cookie paddle. You could work it together with a spoon and your hands if you want to knead it by hand. But it's a pretty soft dough, so you'll be fine. But okay, it's mostly incorporated now, so it won't be piping hot. So I'm going to go ahead and add the yeast and the seeds. And while that's mixing up, you want it to be really well incorporated. And I probably will use my hands to finish kneading it together. Okay, so after you get the dough, I'll show you what it looks like. Ooh, don't want to accidentally drop it. I haven't completely blended it together, so give me a minute here. Oh, it smells so good. I love the smell. It's hard to describe, but you just have to make it. But see, you can see the little specks of black seeds in them. Some people leave the seeds out, so you don't necessarily need to have them. But anyways, okay, once you get your dough completely blended and incorporated, you want to let it rest for about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes till it doubles in size. And since I'm not going to have our Facebook Live viewers wait for that whole time, I'm going to show you what you do once it's rested for all that time. So I'll show you one of my new favorite tools, and I actually have this in the shop on our blog. I didn't know how much I would like it until yesterday. It was the first time I tried it. But I have, let's see, where's my other similar? Oh yeah. I have a similar sill or sill mat, I think they're called. I don't know. Yeah. And it tore because it's really thick. It's actually a really high quality silicone mat that fits on a baking sheet. This is also something that you can bake in, but because it's so big, I think what it works really well for is rolling out dough. And it's got like the measurements all around. So if you're doing loaves and you want them to be uniform size, and then it has the inches and centimeters. Anyways, I really like that because I was trying to get my dough rolled out in a pretty precise way. So and it doesn't stick. So I didn't need to keep adding extra flour like you sometimes have to do. I was able to just roll directly on this mat. So this is a really handy tool. Okay, so what you do, and your dough's going to feel different because it's going to rise, so it's going to have more poofiness. But you're going to take about this much dough, and you're going to roll it out into a snake about 1/2 inch thick, and you're going to cut them into about 8-inch pieces. So let's see here, and then 8 inches, or if you're in centimeters, maybe about 18 centimeters. Once you get it to about 8 inches, see, this is kind of breaking easily because it hasn't had a chance to rise. You're just going to form it into the shape that you want to cook it in. We typically used to just roll it into a circle, and then, here, let me try and tilt this down a little bit. And then we just pinch the end together a little bit like that. And then you can put them on your cookie sheet, and you're gonna bake them. Oh wait, I forgot one step. You also will sprinkle it with some sesame seeds. I just used raw sesame seeds. Just sprinkle them a little bit. Actually, because my grandma's recipe didn't say anything about putting like an egg wash or anything on them. I mean, they have enough butter in them, so you don't really, they'll still stick, the seeds, but rather than having to press them down, I noticed that if I just sprinkled a little bit of the seeds right here and then rolled it a little bit into it before I formed it into the circle, then that was, a little bit of a time-saving tip. So after you get all of your snakes of the kahke dough rolled out into 1/2 inch thick and 8 inches long in length, then, like I said, you'll put it into the shape of a circle, or, as I already showed you, or you can bring the two sides in and you can twist them like this and bake them that way. I thought that was kind of fun too. So I did quite a few like that. So lay them all out. They won't rise too much on your cookie sheet, and then put them in like the middle of the oven at 375 degrees, and you'll cook it for 20 minutes. And when they're done, they're wonderful, beautiful. Here, I'm going to try and show that bottom layer where I did the circle shapes, so you could see. So I'm just going to cover these really well, and I think I'm actually going to stick them into the freezer for Easter, which is in a couple of days. And let me show you the cheese that we like to sprinkle or to eat it with. So this is, let's see, Armenian string cheese. You can see that it has the seeds in there as well. And yeah, what you do is you just, I don't think you need to heat it up or anything, but you just put put some cheese, string cheese on top of the kahke and you eat it together. It's really delicious. So that is Armenian kahke. And for the whole recipe, that's going to be on the blog later today. Tomorrow at the latest. Okay, now we're going to talk about bread. Let me go ahead and set aside this dough so that it can continue to rise. And I've actually got some saran wrap. Well, I'm going to leave that. Let me grab some more. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. I think I'll put a towel over it to help it stay warm. That's going to rest. I'll probably end up freezing the dough. I've been freezing a lot of Armenian stuff to allow me to cook it but not have to eat it right away, and also so that I can make several different recipes in advance. Okay, so we're just going to clean up a little bit of that mess because we're going to be getting into the bread now. So let me tell you about Armenian bread. There's nothing like heavenly Armenian pita bread. And that is a recipe that you will find on the blog at thestuffedgrapeleaf.com. And it's always been our favorite bread. It's very, very simple. There are very, very simple ingredients in this bread. And we love it for the holidays. For Easter, it goes good if you're having like shish kebab. That you can have it for your side of bread. For Thanksgiving, it's great for leftover Thanksgiving sandwiches. And also, let's see, for serving hummus or your other dips. So anyways, if you're looking for how to make it, here's the recipe printed out from my blog. But what you're going to need is 5 pounds of all-purpose flour. And a real easy way to do that is just get the Gold Meadow 5-pound bag at the grocery store, and then you're all set. Okay, so then what you do, now I have a whole video on making Armenian bread. So if you want to see all of the steps, just go to the Stuffed Grape Leaf, or I also have a YouTube channel, but it'd probably be easier for you just to go to thestuffedgrapeleaf.com, and then you can check out the Armenian Pita Bread recipe, and there's a video link that will show you the whole process. But basically all you need for it is the flour, the salt, the active dry yeast, warm water. Oh, interesting. This is a good thing. I am noticing that I actually have the yeast listed twice on my recipe. So I'm going to have to go edit that before people go there and add double the amount of yeast. And water, sugar. So basically salt, yeast, flour, water, sugar, and you use a little bit of butter to coat the inside of the pan where it's rising. After you make the dough, you're going to let it rise until double in a big bowl. And then you're going to punch it down and you let it rise again. And then there's actually 4 different rises on this bread. It's very simple, but it does take a little bit of time. After the second rise, I am going to put a little flour here just because I'm going to be working with a dough that's less greasy than the kahke. But after you let it rise again, then you shape it into balls that you then let rise into double. And the balls are about, well, each ball was made with about this much dough. They're a little bit big, like definitely bigger than a golf ball. I'm thinking maybe the size of like a baseball. So once you once those rise, then you take each ball and you do what I'm doing, where you flatten it out. And I say I do need a little bit more flour. You roll it out flat so that it's going to be your pita bread. Let's see if I can get a good visual of this. Before it puffs up for its fourth and final rise. So I'm going to actually move over to this side of the sheets, because what I'm going to do, and I also usually typically put another covering over the sheets. We usually coat the top of these with plastic as well, but I didn't remember to get that ready, so I'm just going to try it without for right now, and maybe I'll do it when we're not on a Facebook Live. But you're going to put the flattened dough under the sheet. So I've got, the bed sheets are just to keep it warm and keep it from drying out. Okay, so then when those rise again, then they are going to be ready to bake. So, and I've already got my oven preheating, because sometimes, you know, it might not take a full hour. It might be ready in about half an hour. And in fact, we might try baking one of them just so that you can see if they puff up a little bit. And actually, I think, let's see. So yeah, you just go ahead and these got a little bit over risen. Usually they look a little bit more ball shaped, but that's okay. They will be just fine. What I did this time also is I made the dough in advance, and I actually took the balls, so I made the dough in advance and I shaped them into balls, and then I stuck them in a freezer bag, and I was able to get 9 in each bag, so 3 by 3, and I froze, actually I skipped one step. I put them on a cookie tray first, and then I put them in my freezer for just, like, covered with plastic for just about 30 minutes to an hour, so that they would partially freeze rather than being stuck together. And they did. Once they were partially frozen, then I put them in a Ziploc bag. So that is how you do it. You know, I think what I'm going to do, because they cook so fast, and I want to be able to show you how they come out. This one that I haven't rolled out yet, I think will work out really well just to cook it, and you'll at least be able to see what they look like puffed up. So I'm skipping one of the rises just for the sake of this Facebook Live demonstration. But my oven is turned on to 500 degrees. And I'm moving the rack up to the top. I need to still keep this. I don't know how well this is going to work, because you're not really supposed to handle it either after or before you bake it. You have to treat each little loaf of dough very carefully. But anyway, so I have about 18 of these that I'm going to roll out, and then minutes to bake. And so what I'm doing right now, if you'll notice, I put a cookie sheet in the oven and I'm preheating it because you want your cookie sheet to be piping hot when you put the dough on it to bake it. And boy, I have to admit, I have gotten a bad burn every time I've made my Armenian bread. So I probably should be wearing like a thick denim jacket when I make this bread. I have a hard time using the oven mitts because then I don't really have the use of my fingers and I'm fumbling with trying to get the hot tray out. So, but that might be a good option for some of you. Anyways, I'd love to hear any comments that you guys have. So you could post a comment in the comment section, and if you're watching this after the fact, which I think most people will, as this is our first Facebook Live, and we're still growing an audience, but we'd love to hear what your Easter traditions are and what your favorite Armenian foods are to make. And if anybody has any questions, I would also love to find out or answer the questions that you have about Armenian cooking. You don't want to roll them super thin. I do it to about maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. Let's see. So I'm just checking to see if anybody has any questions. I don't see any, but it's possible that I haven't figured out how to check for them yet. So let's see. Once I get, I'm actually going to go ahead and just put this on the tray so you can see what one loaf of bread looks like. And let's see, I guess I do need to take it out. It's a little further in there. So I'm trying to be very careful how I handle it. Okay, so you're going to cook it for about 5 to 7 minutes. Set a timer for 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes and counting.
Actually, sometimes I even start checking it at 3 minutes, but it depends on your oven. So you should probably start checking it after 3 minutes. Okay, so for anyone who's just joining me today, I just wanted to review what we're doing. We made some Armenian Kahke, which is kind of like a type of biscuit. It's not sweet. Some people might call it a cookie, but it's not sweet. So I would call it more of a biscuit, and you can shape it in different ways, but we usually do it in like a little ring, or you could do a twist like I demonstrated, and you eat it with, we like to eat it, our family, with Armenian string cheese. And it makes a great appetizer at Easter time. The other thing that we're doing right now is rolling out our heavenly Armenian pita bread. And I'm putting all the bread dough between the sheet, between these sheets to just keep it insulated. And actually, since we usually use an extra plastic sheet and I didn't have one handy, I'm going to just throw another sheet on it on top for some more warmth and insulation that I did happen to have handy. So I'm going to do that because I don't want it to get dried out. And it does feel nice and moist though. And we're on our last batch of dough that has risen 3 times already. 2 in a big bowl, once as a ball. And now we're laying it between the sheets for the 4th and final rise to make the pita bread. Now I just have to find some space. I typically will do this on a big long table, but for the sake of the Facebook Live, I thought it would be easier to have all my kitchen stuff in one area. So I'm trying to do it on my counter, but I'm not sure that I have enough room. So I do, like I said, I really like this mat, the silicone baking mat that is on the shop at the Stuffed Grape Leaf, because it doesn't stick easily and it has all the measurements for dough. So I know a lot of people make all kinds of bread, and so it's really handy. Okay, so I see a question, Jeremy Stratman. We are making Armenian bread and Armenian Kahke. What a name, right? Let's see. And those will both be on the blog. All right. So thestuffedgrapeleaf.com if you want to check it out. All right, now, it's a good thing I checked this early. I smelled the bread and it was about to burn. Here we go. I have a feeling my fire alarm is going to go off, because it always does. Okay, you can see that pita bread. Here we go. I knew it. I'm sorry, guys. 1 second. Oh, funny. Well, that's going to be a fun twist. Try and open the window here. Let me try to get the sound off. Hold on. Okay. Just trying to keep the action alive. Okay, the bottom, I'm surprised this is not too hot to touch, but the bottom will get a little bit golden, a little golden circle you'll see there. And see how well that puffed up? Notice it's a little bit smaller. And that's because for the purpose of this Facebook Live, I didn't let it rise for the 4th time. I just did it from the ball shape that I hadn't rolled flat. So it's a little squatter. It's probably a little denser, but you see how it cooks up, and it cooks up really fast. So you're just going to be a little bit busy in the oven or in the kitchen while they're all coming out. And I usually have 2 ovens going at the same time. So there you have it. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'm excited to share this recipe with you. And if you have any questions while we're not on the Facebook Live, please just give me a shout out. Like our Facebook page if you haven't already, and help other people discover the amazing Armenian food that we love to cook. Thanks so much. Bye.